We meet again. It's the thing about this practice, word practice. It's ongoing. It's ongoing and making it not another thing to do, just incorporating it as part of the way we are. We're going to be having a guest speaker, Rosemary Watola Tromer, on Thursday, June 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Rosemary has written a poem every single day since 2006. And it's not to write a poem every day to send it out. It's part of how she processes life as a poet. And writing as a companion. But surely there's days where she's not feeling like writing. But she's written a poem every single day since 2006. And what I find very fascinating about Rosemary and this daily poem that she sends out is how incredibly beautifully vulnerable she is, because these poems are in raw form. She wakes up, it's her morning writing, and she just sits down at a blank page. Sometimes she comes back to them, she says, and works them, and she has a few books, right? But actually, she's got a lot of qualifications. I don't have them in front of me, but I did post the invite to her to the event in the Facebook. But please go to zenfulconversations.com and register for that free conversation via Zoom with Rosemary. But I just because we're hearing these conversations every single day. And it's like, well, don't you get tired of talking about it? I want to be present for my life, but I feel like there's a lot of my life I wasn't. And I just don't want to miss any more of it. And that's why this message is that important this year. It's really important. Welcome to Zenful Conversations. We are here every single day in this community having conversations on honoring ourselves. We're in our 6th year. This year, the Book of Awakening is the book that we are pulling from. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. This New York Times best-selling book is described as having the life you want by being present to the life you have. And like so many other areas of this field, this wonderful zone of Zen that I've been able to stumble into, it's an ongoing thing, and there's so many layers. So what I think of being present now, if I keep practicing every day, being mindful of it, it'll get its way in. I can't even imagine if I keep at it, how it'll feel years down the road. my life. That's what we're talking about, right? So that's why we're here, to improve the quality of our life and enjoy it and be present for it. The message we're offered for today, this day number 1955, is titled Holding Out. Holding out. I'm going to take a minute here, a breath, and release some of this tension. I'm a little bit wound up. So I'm just going to take a couple breaths to center myself and come back down a little bit. Release this tension in my jaw, my neck, and start again. The message we're offered today for this day number 1955 is titled Holding Out. Holding Out. Quote by Hakuin. Throughout all the 10 regions of the universe, there is no place where the source is not. Oh, yeah. Throughout all the 10 regions of the universe, there is no place where the source is not. There's an old story about a young man who's freezing on the side of the road. In Alaska. He's hitching a ride to Miami. He's so cold, he can barely hold up his handmade sign. After a long wait, a friendly trucker stops and says, I'm not going to Miami, but I'm going as far as Fort Lauderdale. Oh, dejectedly, the young man says, oh, and turns the ride down. This is a folk myth of our modern culture that warns us against our want for perfection. My dog, when he sits here, goes right at the angle where my arm goes. So it's like a cockeyed. There, let me adjust. So the young man is freezing on the side of the road in Alaska. A friendly trucker says, I'm not going to Miami, but I'm going as far as Fort Lauderdale. And the young man says, oh, and turns the ride down. This is a folk myth of our modern culture that warns us against our want for perfection. How often do we refuse our fate under the guise of holding out for the right thing? How often do we turn down the path presented like a gift because it's not exactly what we're dreaming of? How often do we hold out for the perfect partner, the perfect job, the perfect house? How often do we martyr ourselves to some imagined ideal? How often do we lose sight of what we're really after, insisting on all or nothing when there is so much abundance wherever we are, and so many opportunities that can help us on our way. Let's take a breath here. Gosh, I was just having this conversation yesterday about how waiting is prevalent. I'll be happy when, I'll be this, then, and we all know it, but it's making sure it's easier to see other people. It's easier to see how we think it should be than it is our own selves for some reason. For me, it's challenging to know what I want to see. I almost think that this holding out like this is described. It's a step. It's these steps. Because, gosh, when we get on that this next step, we can see so much further. We learn a lot here. This step is vital to that. We want that, but we can't get there a lot of times without these steps. And it's not the end game, but we want to start out professional and perfect. I think we lose the magic of being a beginner. So much fun and delight in being a beginner at something, but our want to be perfect, I think it stops us from enjoying it, and the fear of rejection or criticism or whatever, right? Because what if you fall on your face? Our first time doing stuff, quite probably normal, right? If thinking walking or skating or riding a bike, it takes a bit. But we want to do something the first time we do it. We want to do it. Ace job for me. I definitely feel that. That resonates. That I recognize that. But I do think that I take the step. I definitely think I move slow on things. This is an interesting thing to ponder today, this message. The meditation exercise that we're offered says to sit outside if you can and watch the clouds. Watch the clouds, one of my favorite things to do. Sit outside if you can and watch the clouds and search for a cloud that looks like a horse. Whether you find one or not, note what searching for one thing feels like. And I'll close your eyes and breathe evenly for a few breaths. And once centered, open your eyes and look to the same clouds, but choose one that compels you and see what shape is waiting in it. Whatever you find, note what finding what is there feels like. This is such an interesting message today. This makes me think of so many things, and there's different points of view. This makes me think of, like, enjoy the life you have. That there's a lot of these things that have been said, like, I can't quote it properly, but there's so much in this message today. Holding out our want for perfection. So if we're talking about being present, he's been talking about a lot of life we're missing out on. And this is another case of it. Are we missing out on, or how much life are we missing out on? Because it's not just so. Losing sight of what we're really after. Insisting on all or nothing. So much we want the black, white, yes, no. It's just. In gratitude. Thanks so much for coming by and sharing in this message today. See you tomorrow. Namaste.